Hey guys, welcome back to the Touchline Podcast. Bringing you another special video today. But before we get into the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a like, comment down below. And we've got a very special guest here today. He's played 215 NRL games for Roosters, Dragons and Panthers. He plays 5'8", and he's played for 3 games for New South Wales in 2011. It's more than Jamie Soward. How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me, boys. It's
anytime.
Weird that Bulldogs fans want me on their podcast. It's great.
No, we've always, as Bulldogs fans, watching you growing up, watching Joey's phone on.
Sorry, guys.
Watching you, man, you're such a legend of the game. The way you played, controlled the game, and we had to have you on.
Yeah, I said something nice about the Bulldogs last week because I'm actually loving watching them play at the moment as an analyst. But I think, those rivalries that we had through 09, 10, 11, 12, that was some of the best games.
Yeah.
It was the most heated environment, obviously at Cogra, in 2009 when I got obstructed.
100%.
The one that lives on. But I actually really appreciate the Dogs fans and how passionate everyone is, and the way that you've supported your team the last year, I think is really good for the game.
Yeah.
And just going off that, best time, the 09 to the 12 seasons, because you could never beat us.
Dragons weren't unstoppable, man. Dragons weren't unstoppable.
They got their revenge when I went to Penrith. I couldn't beat them when I went to Penrith.
Your boys are getting better now, Dragons.
Really
clicking.
Yeah, Flanneau's been good.
Yeah.
He's I had him in 2004 at the Roosters in Jersey Flegg, and he hasn't. He's such a hard taskmaster. But I think the one thing, and with the Bulldogs as well, is both sides look really, really fit, and there's probably not a lot of names that you would go, right, that person's going to play for Australia or play for Origin, but they're just working for each other, and the Dogs have done that really well. They've worked hard for each other. The Dragons have done it in spurts. So I think when the NRL's flying, not every Sydney team can make the finals every year, but I think when the Bulldogs are there, there's something passionate about that, and same with the Dragons.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah, well, look, let's take it back to where it all began. First of all, what got you into rugby league? Were there any family members that, introduced you to the game or wanted you, to play in, rugby league?
Yeah, so my dad was playing for Canberra in Jersey Flegg. He was a tough bastard. He was a forward, knock everyone out, tackle everything that moves. And then Mum was actually a really good basketballer. So, sport was always going to be in my blood. And I played basketball up until about 12, 13. But footy, it was always going to be footy. I think, I started playing touch, and it was always going to be NRL. I was chasing that dream from Wagga. But, Dad was probably, gave me I would say half of it. Mum gave me all the skills, I'd say.
What position did you play as a junior? Was it always 5'8", or was there another position that you played back in the days?
Yeah, I was too small. I had played 5'8", and halfback all the way through, and then I only had 1 year in centre. One of the bigger lads came over from another team in Wagga and said, I'm playing 6. So I said, okay. I was too scared to say no. So I went and played centre. But I played always in the halves. When I came to Sydney and had a successful year at the Roosters in Flegg, I'd sort of gone into first grade and probably didn't realise, but had to do an apprenticeship at 9.
Okay,
and didn't like that. I wasn't a tackler. I put my body in front, but I wasn't a tackler. And now when I'm coaching, I'm trying to educate young halves that they've got to spend some time there to get a feel for the game. But I've always played in the halves. I had 2 games at the Roosters at fullback in first grade. Horrible. I think one was at the old Parramatta Stadium, one was down in Melbourne. So, but always been in the halves.
Yeah, well, look, growing up, was there anyone you inspired to be like? There's so many legends of the game, but was there one in particular you're like, I want to be like him?
I don't think there was one in particular. I mean, I had a Blues jersey with my name on the back. I thought that was cool. Back when you used to be able to do that. Yeah. I mean, you boys are too young, but we're old enough to remember that was like when you got your name put on the back. That was the in thing. Yeah. But then, it was. I really loved Wally Lewis. I know I shouldn't say that as a Blues fan, but we had a tape at home, Long Live the King, and it was Wally's sort of greatest moments. And I used to watch all those Winfield Cup VHSs, and that's videos for those people that don't know, and all the kangaroo tours and that. So I never really probably had someone that I wanted to be like, but I just I played with Mark Brentnall, who's the assistant coach at Melbourne. I played with Ian Mortimer, and like those were famous names. So I guess that's sort of, they wanted to be like their famous names, but I didn't have a famous name, so I didn't really want to be like anyone. I had a different skill set as well. I was extremely fast and could pass, so I had to try and build my own sort of way rather than try and be someone.
I was just going to say that, right? So as a damaged St. George supporter myself, obviously I watched your career intensively. It's funny you say you didn't look up to anyone, because it showed in your style. Because the way you played was, in my opinion, unorthodox. You couldn't relate it to another player.
Yeah.
Jamie Soward was Jamie Soward. Yeah. You almost changed the 5'8" role.
Yeah, well, I think I was never going to be Andrew Johns. I never took the ball to the line and had that sort of finesse. He had a great kicking game. So, when Wayne Bennett came to the club, because I was sort of, I think people forget, like my first 50 games, I scratched around, like come off the bench at the Roosters and left and came to the Dragons and had a little bit of an impact, but not much that was going to win the comp a couple of years later. But Wayne come to the club and just said, like, what are you good at? And we're Australian, we're all taught to be humble and I don't know, he's like, well, if you don't know what you're good at, how am I going to help you? So, I was good at kicking. I knew I could kick the ball a long way. I could pass. The touch had given me that skill set. I was fast. So he said, let's just work really hard on that and make that great. And then the rest of the stuff, the defense and that, you're going to have to work on. But I'm not asking you to make 30 tackles. I just want you to put your body in front and just try and slow them down. I was like,
so
no coach has ever said that.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
Yeah, like Sticky was different.
Yeah.
Sticky was like, you're soft. He knew my dad. Yeah. So that sort of changed the way. Like, I got into an argument with Darbs once, Darius Boyd, about, because he'd come out of Origin and Thurston, these amazing players.
Yeah.
The way they ball played was completely different to me. And I said, mate, I don't play like that. Like, I'm going to give it to you early. I'm trying my best. It's just not my style. I'm not going to, I can't just manufacture it overnight. And Wayne sort of just sat us down and went out that week and we ran like the shittest little block play at the back and Darb scored and I was like, mate, that's it. Are you happy now? Like, so I just sort of played. I was just, brought up on competing hard, moving fast. And, sometimes I forget that in my coaching style. I probably get a little bit too technical and ask girls to do stuff that maybe they're not capable of yet. But go back to my roots and think about that competing.
So we'll talk extensively about that part of that era, which is, I think, everyone wants to hear about, let's take it back. Were you in the Canberra system at all?
Yes.
If you were?
Yeah.
How did they let you go? Did you have a player manager? How did you land at the Roosters?
So 2003, I just won Nationals with Southern Suns with all my mates under 20s and had a trial. So I was 17, so I had a trial with Canberra, drove down. Matty Elliott was there, which is funny because I work with him now, but I went out to the old Seaford Oval out at Queanbeyan, drove out there, played not long, I'd like to think less than 10 minutes maybe, got taken off, set up a couple of tries, felt like I'd played okay, but didn't go back on. And the reason I'd got there was because a mate of a mate knew a strapper at the Raiders. And I'd sent a VHS and a resume similar to the questions of all my strengths, weaknesses, where I was from, a bit about my history, all that kind of stuff. Matty Elliott had never seen anything like it. And my stepdad, credit to him because he put it together and we had a little binder and sounds to those kids now that get scouted, it's like, that's a resume. Like, why would you say that? But it just showed like highlight tapes on YouTube are all great things.
Yeah.
This had me missing some tackles and it was a pretty honest assessment. Didn't hear anything from the Raiders. Next day, got a call, moved back to Canberra. 2003, my season coach was Michael Maguire.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
So he was my first senior coach in the rep system. And then I played with guys like Terry Campese, a couple of guys in the Canberra system. We got bounced in the quarterfinal, went to go back and re-sign. The club didn't really want me. They had Michael Dobson and Todd Carney in that next SG ball underneath. So I'd been playing touch for New South Wales, and Sammy Ayub had reached out. He coached me in that under-20s. He'd reached out and he said, "Do you want a manager?" I said, "I don't think I need a manager, mate. Like, he said, I think I can get you to go at the Roosters, sort of like a training trial." And I moved to Sydney with my stepdad for 10 grand, and Flano was my next coach. So my first two coaches were Premiership winning coaches. And
that's incredible.
Yeah, and then, it's funny, like, sort of sidetracked, but I've had Flano, Sticky, Michael Maguire, Ivan Cleary, Wayne Bennett, all win premierships.
So did you pick anything up? Can you pinpoint what Maguire has done for you, or what Flano done for you?
It was hard. Like, I remember I was injured the first round, and I said, what do I do? Like, I'm a kid from the bush. I don't know what you're just injured. Yeah. He said, I want you to go and watch all the halfback stuff. And I was like, what, on tape? He's like, yeah. So I went and watched it and wrote down some stuff. And then from there I was like, oh, this is real. So, he was very hard taskmaster. I think.
Still is.
Yeah. And I think I would have loved to have been coached by him a little bit older and understand a little bit more. Much like I'd love to go back and work again with all my coaches, because you understand different things. Like with Hook, when I got him at Penrith, I'd come off the back of winning a comp and then having prelim final against the Dogs. Like, sort of was established, but my ego was too big, so I didn't really understand what he was trying to build with the younger guys. So if I went back and had that time again and knew what I knew now, mate, I would probably finish my career at Penrith. And who knows, what would have been.
Well, you guided the Roosters in 2004 Jersey Flegg Tour Premiership. You had 2 last-ditch field goals. At such a young age, how did this, mentally affect you? Like, you were going in the right direction. Like, did this play a big factor in, I can do this, I can make the NRL and become a great player?
That was crazy. We had our 20-year reunion last week. 351 points, I think, I scored that year. Like, we didn't get beat all the whole year.
Yeah.
Just moved to Sydney, going from Canberra, moved to Sydney and you win 29 weeks in a row. Like, it was the best.
Yeah.
It was. It
would be, yeah.
We weren't losing. You'd win, you'd go out and have a few beers. Come back to training, rock in, win again. Like, it was.
Just a side note, did you play with a guy named Raymond Jarley in that team?
I did, Raymond Jarley. He played with me.
So he was.
I didn't play with him. He's a forward, mate. He did nothing.
100%. He played with you.
Yeah.
So he's a good friend of mine.
Yeah. No. He's come from
the Canterbury comp. He didn't make our Canterbury team.
Nah.
And then went over to you guys.
Yeah. So he. I don't think he was at the reunion, but we had like a very good bunch of mates that just all played all together. Like, we watched the Shark side who played in the grand final, and they had Serraldo, Greenfield, Douglas, the Goodwin boys. Like, they had first graders littered. We only had a couple of guys that went on to play more than sort of 10 games. So, but Raymond Jarley, he was good value.
He played only.
I think he's still playing somewhere, maybe. Would he?
Up until he was in the Lebanon World Cup team.
Yeah.
That just passed.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's playing now, but he was playing up until recently. I know that for sure.
I don't understand why.
He played one NRL game, I know, against the Cowboys.
Yeah. I think him and Steve Meredith played one. Poor old Stevie did his ACL.
Yeah.
But it was.
That was a gun team. I was actually there at that grand final.
Oh, wow.
Dogs.
Because the dogs were next.
Yeah.
In 04.
Well, a year later.
That was 04, so we had all 3 grades in that day.
Yeah.
And we won Flegg and reserve grade, and then we lost first grade.
Well, a year later, in round 9 in 2005, you had your NRL debut against the Knights. What were you feeling at that current point of your career?
I thought I was ready.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted a chance because the club had made 3 grand finals in a row. I'd played, reserve grade and just felt like I was ready. Like, the club wasn't going great in first grade, so felt like I'd earn a chance to see whether I was good enough or not. I was never going to replace Freddie. That was one of the legends of the club, so I didn't want to do that. But it was a new style that we had to play, because I think Sticky was sort of had that mix of old guys. Like, Rico was still there, Kalis, Wingy. Like, there was still some great players there, but the new guys coming in the spine were young, and we were like, chip and chase. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
You know, there's no real understanding.
No real
of
structure.
The next 10 minutes. Yeah, let's just play.
play.
And that, I think that probably frustrated those older guys, and I totally understand why. But yeah, you make your debut. It was SFS. It's where every child wants to play their debut. It's grand
100%.
finals. I watched Bulldogs Raiders there in '94. I was lucky enough to make my debut there, and then I was lucky enough to be in commentary for the last game there before the redo. So it had held a special place in my heart and watching grand finals. Like, you know, you grow up and
it's the
SFS.
We used to play
The
there,
daytime and it was just the SFS.
3 o'clock kickoff.
Yeah, the best. So it was good. We played. The Knights had, I think, 15 or 16 out, so it was good. I think it was 4-2 at half time.
Yeah.
Shit game.
The score was 32-2, I think, at the end of the game.
Yeah,
The Roosters Knights won.
Yeah, I never ever watched it. I couldn't tell you what happened.
So did you hold that moment as a debut or?
Not really.
Yeah, it was great. I went out and got pissed and was ringing my mates and
It's the best feeling.
it was a great feeling. The next morning, Dad had a heart attack and died. So I never really got to process what that debut was like because I had to deal with life.
Yeah.
So, and now that I'm a father, I've probably dealt with that differently. But yeah, it was crazy. Like, this is what you.
Sorry, do you mind if I just touch on that point, Jamie? Only because, look, mental health.
Yep.
Is a huge thing for me, right? And I think it's good to get it out there to let, especially men, know that shit happens, and we all go through a rough time. How did you deal with that? Like, was there a moment you said like, stuff the game, I'm not going to play, you wanted to throw it in? Or how did you react to losing your father?
Yeah, well, I just sort of opened up deeply for the first time publicly, like on pods with one of my best mates, and it felt good to talk about it. But at the time, you're on this high of living out a dream, and then you go to, holy shit, like, this is life. I have to, telling my sister was the hardest thing. The funeral was really hard. It sort of happened really quickly. I'd spent 2 weeks out of the game. I was trying to be a man who was still a kid, who was trying to still chase a dream. But mentally, I didn't handle it. Like, I didn't talk to anyone. Back then, you didn't talk to anyone.
No, you weren't.
You drank, gambled until you felt okay, and then you went back.
Yeah.
That was it. So I said, my stepdad took me out to a reserve grade game, and it's not to be disrespectful to anyone that played reserve grade, but he just said, like, do you want to finish your career here or do you want to play first grade? Tough love.
That's a great way to show you, though.
Yeah, he's like my best friend.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
Huey explained that to me and sort of worked my way back a little bit, and that's why I'll be forever grateful for the Roosters for giving me an opportunity, but I probably never settled in there as well as what I should be, maybe because of that moment. But now I think we don't give ourselves enough credit for what we've been through individually as people, not just men, but as people. And I've got to remind myself that, I've lost the grand final my first year of coaching, and my daughter has no idea. She just wants dad.
Yeah.
And that makes all the stuff that I go through. And I even told myself last night, in reflection, that, it's temporary. Everything's temporary. Some days are going to be great and you're going to ride that and you're going to try and stretch that temporary moment out. Other days are really bad and it's going to feel like it's forever. But it's temporary. So, not saying have kids fixes it, but for me, those two girls, and I've got a strong wife, man. My plane's up and down like it's in a whirlwind the whole time, and she knows that. But
she keeps things steady.
Yeah, she knows. Yeah, I send her a plane, and she knows whether it's windy or not. So, but I think we mature. I think right now the people that go through things, when you write it out, it writes it out. Sometimes it's not that bad. It's just yourself telling you it's that bad.
Yeah.
Like, I used to miss 4 tackles, and it was the end of the world. Halves these days missed 8 tackles, and it's acceptable.
Yeah, exactly. The game's changed.
Footy's so
mate,
different.
if I was playing these days,
you would have got crucified.
Yeah,
so it's temporary, mate. at the end of the day, yeah, you got to do your best. And if you can, like Wayne would say, if you can look yourself in the mirror and say you did the best you could, who cares who?
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to get there.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's be Bulldogs fans watching this that still hate me for 09.
Yeah.
I used to worry about what people said about me. Now I'm a father, I'm teaching that to my girls. I haven't cared what people say about me for a long time.
Yeah.
That's good.
It took a long time to get there, though, because there's people that you respect that are going to comment on you, but they're just doing their job.
Yeah.
So once you accept that, you go,
yeah.
okay. And then the other part of it is accepting what position you're in. I'm in the media. People are going to say stuff about me.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
They're doing their job, or they can't do my job. So I just accept that and move on.
Yeah, it's a process
Fantastic.
thing. Well, look, in 2007, you joined the Dragons, and we know what happened after that. The rest is history. But was there any clubs interested before the Dragons? Was there a chance you would have not been a Dragon? So how did that play out?
Yeah, the Dragons, I went and had a coffee with Brownie and handshake deal, and then played for the Roosters that week. So it was I was going to the Dragons no matter what. My dad loved the Dragons. My stepdad loved the Dragons, and he even we joked about it. Like, we're at a dinner with one of his mates, and he said, "Mate, imagine if you're at the Dragons, and you win a comp there or something like that."
Wow.
I said, "Nah, mate,
That's
it'll never happen. I'm at the Roosters. I'm happy, you know." Blah, blah. Fast forward, and it happened. But yeah, it was the Dragons then, and then throughout you get rumours and managers do their job and all that kind of stuff. But it was the Dragons, and I'd committed to that, and I'd always been a handshake person. And after the Roosters, I'd played first grade that one game. I'd already agreed to go, and Nick Politis, I'll always be grateful to Nick Politis. He'd always put the foot down and said, "Nah, he hasn't played. You know, he can go." So Chris Anderson, didn't like that at the time, but yeah, I'd gone to the Dragons, and it wasn't going to be anyone else.
So did Nick find out that you had the handshake deal?
No, well, I don't know what happened between him and Sam, but the way that it was explained to me was, so Chris Anderson rang me. I was at a wake for one of my best mates' dad's funeral, and Opes rang me and said, "Mate, you're our halfback. You can't go. Nick's told me you want me to go." I said, "Mate, I'm going. Like, I'm leaving."
So did you finish the season, or was it a mid-season?
Midweek. I was in Wagga on the Sunday. I watched the Broncos beat Newcastle.
So he just told you, "Oh, you've shaken the hand. See you later."
Yeah,
Or,
I'd already.
Wow.
The deal was done.
wow.
The deal was done.
But he's shown how ruthless he is, eh?
But I think Nick had gone. He's done the deal. He wanted me to go because he'd seen me come through the juniors, and he wasn't going to hold me back if I wasn't getting an opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I played. This was like round 12, so I'd played 2.5 months in reserve grade.
Yeah.
One game in first grade. I'd already said, like, "Mate, I need an opportunity." So Nick granted me that opportunity.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't-
Okay, yeah.
He just granted me that opportunity, and I'll always be grateful to him. I'll always show respect to Nick and what he's done for me
Yeah.
in that situation, because I'd had such a great, 2004 undefeated, 2005 grand final reserve grade, 2006 grand final reserve grade. Still not playing regular first grade. Like, either I'm the problem, or I'm not getting picked for something else.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, but yeah, I went to the Dragons. Broncos beat Newcastle 72-4, and we watched it. And then the boys said, "Are you playing Friday night?" I said, "Yeah, I'm playing the Dragons." They said, "Who do you play?" I said, "We play the Broncos."
Yeah. Well, you got the winning field goal against the Broncos, and they had world-class players. You got Justin Hodges, Darren Lockyer, Sam Thido. How did that win really improve your confidence for Dragons, especially on your debut?
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. We had, I think Rylesy was a late inclusion, so we had sort of a rag and tag team. I'd only trained once with the team, and I was living up the road at Alawa, walked down in a hoodie, and then couldn't get out after the game. It was
Wow.
Chaos.
Yeah, it was like,
Oh,
how good's this? We just kicked them off the park, and it was great. Josh Morris was outstanding. We had just guys that just went out there, and I remember tackling Brad Thorne. I thought, what's this?
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I just felt at home straight away. So, no, it was good.
Tell us a bit about Josh and Brett Morris. They're such icons of the game. Both of them also coming to Bulldogs. So how was your relationship with them?
Yeah, well, obviously I'm closer with BMOS because I played with him longer. But, yeah, JMOS, when I got there, I was in awe of their athletic ability and their feel for the game, the way they do things, their versatility to be able to play anywhere in that sort of back five. Jamos was a lot stronger in that centre position. And it was really sad when he left the club, because it felt like that next young brigade were going to bring through after what had been a successful period for the Dragons in 05-06. So when he left, that was sad for the club, because we're all sort of pretty tight. But I've always said Brett Morris is the best winger ever to play the game.
I agree.
And I don't think there's any arguments around there, and people can look at bigger wingers, but his try-scoring ability, the way he reinvented himself defensively at the Roosters, is just second to none.
That try against the Sharks.
Yeah,
When he was like 3.5 meters in the air.
Yeah, but what people don't know,
Backflip.
this is for young kids. Like, so in 09, Jason Nightingale and Wendell Saylor start the year on the wings. Brett Morris starts the first 3 games at Shell Harbour.
Okay.
Yeah, so he didn't.
Crazy.
He scored 26 tries. He won the try scoring title.
Wow.
He scored 26 tries or 25 tries or something. But the lesson there is, like, he didn't sook.
Yeah.
He'd already been in first grade. He was established. He didn't sook. He went away, worked at his game, knew he had to get better with his hands, started getting a tennis ball and walking around the room and warming himself up before training, because, B-Moss will tell you, like, he was in game stuff, he was unbelievable. But training, he probably had one error.
A session, yeah.
Yeah, but Wayne was sort of the standard. We don't do that. We need to practice that gold standard. So he went away, and then he came back and blitzed him. I think he scored, I looked at it the other day, he's like 60 tries in 3 years or something.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Crazy.
Crazy, man.
In 09, you've obviously started to get a feel of Dragon supporters and how ruthless we can be, right? For many years, we were labelled as chokers. 09, we're the pick of the crop. Minor premiers, you guys are killing it. We lose to Para in the first semi, and then we lose to the Broncos. Bang, bang, we're out. What did that do to you mentally? Did that choker tag play a role in any of those games? Or do you block it out? How does it work with you?
Yeah. Well, the choker tag it was new, because I'd never played in a finals game. That was my first final series. In 08, I was injured. Dragons got beat by Manly at Brookvale. And so I'd never, the choker tag wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And I just remember we just didn't play as a team or to our plan against Para. And, they had a pretty hot run going into that finals.
Well, Hayne, that run Hayne had, without Hayne, Para don't do what they do, what they've done.
Yeah, that's right.
No
so,
way.
We lost there. It felt like that took the air out of the balloon, but bulk of us were still pretty young, in terms of finals experience. I know, Dell and Benny and all those guys have been around, but I'd never played in a final series. Darius was still establishing himself. He'd won a grand final, but he was a fullback now, an out-and-out fullback. So, we just sat in a pub, and it was like, shit, it's over. And then I never ever felt like we weren't going to get back there, because Wayne steadied the ship. He just said, we're not going to change things. We just have to do it better. We just have to do it better at the end of the year. And that, as disappointed as you felt, that pre-season going into 2010 was probably the hardest but most enjoyable, where you just knew that everyone was so focused. We were so focused at getting back, because a bit like some of the teams now, and I'm not pinpointing anyone, but you've got to get back to that moment. And that moment, if you think, for instance, let's have a look at Brisbane. Lose the grand final. You can train the whole off-season, look around and go, well, we've still got Reece Walsh, we've still got Carrigan, we'll be right. It doesn't happen like that.
No.
Wayne was preparing us for, that's the end goal, the finals, but this has got to be the hard work. And I think we started on fire in 2010. We were on fire. And then we won another minor premiership. The only time I felt tight, because the choker tag came out, I remember watching the highlights, and they had the ghosts around our neck at Cogra.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do you remember?
Yeah, I think I
had
remember
like
seeing
the
something.
chokers tag,
Yeah.
and the hoodoo, and it was a commercial, but that was the thing, right? And we were tight in that first half against Manly. That was the only time I felt like the choker stuff was affecting me. But other than that, I didn't really think about
We ended up blowing them off the park.
Yeah, well, they had injuries. They'd had injuries. They'd been on a huge run the last 4 years, I think 2 grand finals.
Yeah.
So, for us, that was the only time I felt tight. And then we had a week off, and then Tigers in the semi.
Yeah, well, talk about that in the preliminary final. You scored in 2010. You kicked the field goal 35 metres out. I rewatched that, seeing it again. That was just crazy. Like, talk about us that moment. Like, that was such a big moment in the game that led you going into the next stage, in which was the grand final.
Yeah, well, firstly, that whole week was more about the old boys losing in 05 because that was the team they should have won it with, and losing to the Tigers, and then that was the same sort of young boys, Benji and Robbie and that. And, I said my stepdad was, and this is why I love him, but usually I'll have 3 shots, field goal makes before in my warm-up. That was just part of my routine. That night I just had one. Just hit it sweet.
Okay, yeah.
And
perfect.
Yeah, and they went throw me a ball. I said, nah, I'm not going to hit
I'm
it.
good.
Nah, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
And it was the opposite end.
Yeah.
And then, we start slow. I made a shit read. Lottie scores. I went short lead. They went out the back. Lottie scores. Rob Louis scores. 12-0. Okay, we're tightening up a little bit. They were defending so fast. They were just moving so fast. And it was like, it's half time. We're 12-6. Okay, what are we going to do? End up getting back to 12-all. But I just remember that moment. I knew I was kicking the field goal.
Yeah.
My whole team knew I was kicking the field goal. We'd practiced for it. We'd set up the whole year. There was no... Like, I watch teams now and frustrates me because you're like, who's going to kick?
Yeah.
You don't know.
And then the commentator goes, such and such hasn't kicked the field goal in NRL. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
And then they watch them set up and you're like,
Yeah.
what
you
are they
don't know.
doing?
Yeah.
You watch that set for us, I'm like at fullback
Yeah.
the whole time.
Yeah, you were pretty far off.
We knew.
Yeah.
Right post, Fiends is going to throw to me. They're there. I've got an out if I need it. But if you get any chance, just kick it.
So that's a drill you kept doing in training?
We knew.
Yeah.
The boys knew, and we said it in the doco. They all knew that I was going to kick it. I knew I was going to kick it. And I think sometimes young players get like, oh, are you going to kick it? Do you want me to kick it?
Yeah.
And later in my career, you had to mix it up a bit. I went a couple of times to Moiser. But in that moment, I was going to kick it. And if I missed, I missed. But I didn't even think I was going to miss. So
You hit that one.
I hit it sweet.
So sweet.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah.
It was just straight out of the screws. Yeah, went way over the dead ball line. That was it. And then we almost lost on the siren with that last play.
Thank you, Bo Ryan.
Yeah.
We love you.
Yeah.
Kicks it with like 20 seconds to go.
Yeah, it's great.
Mate, we were shot.
Yeah, we were gone.
If he gets tackled, he plays the ball. Mate, that left edge. Mate, we had like
Gone.
3-4 guys in our
we were all
defensive
over the other
line.
side. So
Yeah, so
appreciate it.
Yeah, look, if you didn't go to the grand final, do you think like you'd start to think, are we ever going to get there? Because it was back to back, 2009, 2010. Was it like this year we have to make it?
That's a question I'll never have to answer.
yeah, you
'Cause
know
he's
why?
won.
Because we won it.
He won it. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
the week
fair enough.
after you win the grand final, can you give us any insights of what was being said in the shed before the grand final match? Wayne Bennett, what was he telling you guys?
It was very relaxed. Yeah, we played Chinese whispers before we went to the ground because it was raining. We stayed at Bondi against the Roosters. Stayed at Bondi. Wayne had won 6 grand finals there. Yeah, it was crazy.
Can you tell us what? Because I've heard this story
Yeah.
about the Chinese whispers.
So we went to go on our team walk.
Yeah.
And it was raining. So Wayne's like, well, we're not going to go on a team walk if it's raining. So we just sat around and...
What was the Chinese whisper?
Well, we had a tight group that would just hang shit on each other the whole time.
Yeah.
And it was relentless. And sometimes, we push and shove because it got personal. Anyway, we just started slanging stuff across the room and then someone whispered something and then, we just started making shit up. And we just sat there. It was the most relaxed. Like, you wouldn't have thought we're going to play a grand final.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then we got on the bus, and the only time I remembered it was real was the week before we took a different route for the semi-final. We went a different way. And I started freaking out. I'm like, what's this bloke doing? We're going to be late. Blah, blah, blah. Wayne had gone a different way to take out some of that extra travel, but so we didn't have to sit in the sheds as long.
Okay.
All right.
So it's like, there's levels to it.
This guy's.
We got in there, man, and it was so relaxed, sort of walked there, and I didn't even think, like, this is grand final. Wayne just said, when you run out, and if you watch the grand final, Roosters walk out, because we're on a time, everything's TV.
Yeah.
And Wayne said, do not walk out, run out. Run out, make them wait. So they walk out, side by side. They walk, they stand there, and they're standing there. I'm over here. I'm screaming, yelling, shouting, yahooing, getting all that energy out.
Can I
We walk in, they've been standing there for 2 minutes.
Mind games.
Yeah, just like little things like that. We come in, the first half was the first half. We got a lucky call with BMOS going out. I'm not afraid to admit that. They got a
Yeah, he
lucky
was
call.
out. Yeah.
They got a lucky call with Braith's try. I thought that was a knock-on.
Yeah.
And then 8-6 half time, the shed was really composed because Wayne was composed, and that's something I've got to learn in my coaching is just probably taking a little bit longer time before I go down to the sheds just to articulate what I'm going to say to myself so I can get it better to the girls. And he was very simple. He just said, this is not the Dragons out there. I don't know who this is. It's not the Dragons. All we've got to do is win the second half. And I was like, no shit. We're down 8-6. If we don't win the second half, this is going to be devastating.
Yeah.
And then the first set after half time, if you go back and watch it, because our kick plan was to BJ Leilua the whole game. And we got him on that try with Gaz. But if you watch the first set after half time, we roll down the middle. I punch it down into that right corner in behind BJ and Minnie, and it goes about a metre out. And you just look at the red and white wall. They didn't get inside our 20 until the last 7 minutes.
Well,
And that was the difference. Like that set, not the kick, but the set.
No, bro. All right, you're obviously humble, right? So I'm going to tell you, it was your kicking game. You basically kicked us to a premiership. I'm telling you, as a supporter, right, and everyone can say, he's pissing in his pocket and I'm probably having a fanboy moment. Your kicking game, Jamie, and if you look at the Panthers, right, look at Nathan Cleary's kicking game. You can have the best defensive line. You can have your forwards that are punching it up the middle and you're making 50, 60 yards, every set. Your last tackle option is so important. If you don't have a good last tackle option, whatever you've done the 5 tackles previously goes down the drain. Do you agree?
Yeah, you can rescue sets.
As well. So if we could be stuck, 20, 30 out from our line, then a 60, 70 metre punt, in the corner gets us back on the front foot.
Yeah.
Your kicking game, not just 2010, 09, 10, 11, and the reason why I'm concentrating on those 3 years, because that was our most successful years, mate, you won us the premiership. And why I say that, not just game day, games leading up to the grand final. Mate, there were times we were shot as a team. And what saved us every time was Jamie Soward's kicking game. That repeat set of 6. Kicks that should never have been sitting in the in goals were sitting. 40-20s. Mate, you had it covered. So I just wanted to... I wanted to clear that up.
Yeah,
because
thanks.
You're obviously not going to say that.
No, but I recorded that bit so I can play it before I go to bed. But I think the game was a lot different then than it is now. The open space was rewarded more. Now it's too much of a threat. 7 tackles, all that rubbish.
Yeah.
But the chase, the setup, like there's a lot that goes into it. I think that young halves these days, and Nathan Cleary is the exception, but if you watch Mitchell Moses in Origin 2, he has a kick plan, and most teams have a kick plan, if not every team has a kick plan. The great kickers are able to adapt on the run and work out very quickly what, who, when, why, and how. What kind of kick do I need? When am I going to execute this? How am I going to execute this? Why am I doing it? All right, and what's the end result going to be? So that you can compute that very quickly and put your team into a strong position, which the great halves do. Jerome Hughes, I think the best young half in the game with the best kicking game. If you rank kicking games, he may even be one right now. Isaiah Kartai.
He's been performing this year.
You go and watch his kicking game, and who's his coach?
Yeah,
Wayne Bennett.
Wayne Bennett.
Yeah,
that's why. Yeah,
he believes in you, puts you in a position, and says that's your job. That's your responsibility.
Was it devastating news when you heard that Wayne Bennett was leaving the club?
Yeah.
How did it do for the squad, the team?
Did the board screw that one? I know you're there, Jamie. I know
I have
you're
no
there.
idea. I have no idea. I honestly couldn't remember how it all eventuated. That was
Because I've got mates. Again, we're damaged, as you know. So we know, we try to know as much as we can. I had mates that know a couple of insiders, and we got told that he wanted another 2 years, and Douse didn't want a bar of it.
nah. No, I don't. For me, I don't. I've never ever tried to cross that line of administration and players and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that's fair. Wayne Singh was coaches coach, players play, administrators administrate. Whatever happened, it was a golden period for the club, and that's what everyone's trying to get back to that now. And we understand the challenges that come with that, with salary cap and players and all that kind of stuff. I was upset that Wayne was leaving the club because he'd been the best coach I'd had. I'd played my best under him. Part of me wanted to go with him to Newcastle, but that was never ever going to happen. So, of course, you get upset. We've probably felt like we should have won another title in that little period,
100%.
but we didn't. So, I think sometimes things get messy along the way, and whatever happens out of that happens. But all I know for myself is I'd played my best under Wayne. I felt like we still maybe had another year, but it wasn't meant to be.
Did Wayne have a discussion with you maybe for you to go tonight, or he never had that? No, never?
Nah. I'd already signed with the Dragons.
Oh, fine.
Did you want to be a Dragon for life after that Premiership success?
Yeah. The club knows this, yeah.
Okay. I know you don't want to cross over into administration, but what happened?
Oh, it was pretty simple. Gus had made an inquiry about my services, and I'd wanted a longer contract at the Dragons.
And they wouldn't give it.
They'd offered me one at the time. I got offered 4 by Gus. So for me, it was
Makes
a
sense.
no-brainer. Like Gareth Widdop would coming in. I'd probably, we talk about ego again, but I probably felt like I deserved a little bit more respect in terms of the offer.
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
37-year drought.
You've earned
For
it.
long term, because I would have loved to have played me and Gareth Widdop. I thought that would have been a dangerous halves pairing.
Mate, that's a combo you'd only dream of.
Yeah. So,
did you have run-ins with Steve Price? Was that part of the issue?
nah. Oh, yeah. Well, back then we did. I had a beer with Price the other day. I think.
Oh no, yeah, no, I'm not talking. In that moment.
Yeah.
When,
of course. Yep.
Do you feel you're getting like you're the scapegoat?
Nah. I felt there was part of me that wanted things to stay the same under Wayne, and that was an immature approach from me, because to keep getting better, you've got to want to learn and you've got to want to evolve, and I didn't want to. I felt like I'd made it. I need consistency, and I'd liked that from Wayne. I got moved to the left-hand side of the field. I just felt like there was too much changing around me, and I didn't respond well to that. I wasn't looking after myself off the field. I was probably in a toxic relationship at the time that wasn't making me my best version of myself, and that trickled into my footy. So, looking back, I was probably a dickhead to Pricey, to be honest, and didn't handle it very well at all, because I felt like I was probably a bit more entitled than what I was because we'd won the Premiership.
Yeah,
which is
fair
why
call.
it didn't work out.
Fair call.
Cool.
Well, look, you joined Panthers now. Of course, you were coach under another great coach, Ivan Cleary. What's the difference you see from when you were under him to Ivan Cleary now leading Panthers to a 3-peat?
He's a great coach. And again, I probably even wasn't my best version under him. He tried to help me and talk about when you get older, you got to train harder. And, I was dealing with some heavy shit away from footy life, which took over rather than footy, which it does at times. Smart coach, very much about the players, encourages the players to, there's no black and white. It's grey with Ive, which is great because you can sort of manoeuvre, well, why'd you do that? This is why I did this. He encourages you to have that ability to be able to think. So I think the one thing about Ivan is that you always felt like he understood what you were saying, which was really cool, because sometimes as players you try and protect yourself from getting dropped or why you did this, but you always felt like he understood because of that grey period or that grey blurriness that he had. So in 14 we had horrendous injuries, and I thought we did amazing to beat the Roosters week 1, and the Dogs I mean, I don't think anyone was. I'll say this respectfully about the Dogs. I don't think anyone was beating the Bunnies that year. They were
outstanding.
They were just
Look,
outstanding.
even as a Doggies fan, we were probably lucky to get there because we had come 7th. You know, there's not a lot of hype for the Bulldogs to go to the grand final, and then all of a sudden we beat the Panthers and we're off to the final. So you could see there was probably a bit of luck that we got into the final.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was just all happened very quickly for us because we'd sort of looked around and we had a heap of young kids like Isaiah Yo and all these guys were injured and then they were back in. So, but it was, Ive was a good coach.
What would you say the difference between Ivan Cleary and Wayne Bennett? Do they have the same management approach and how they control the team?
Very similar in some aspects. I think Ivan's probably, he's a lot younger. So, Wayne gives that dad vibe to you, whereas Ivan's probably a little bit more in that younger crew with being around and getting the boys together and stuff like that. So, mate, it's been so long now. I've been retired.
Yeah. And both calm coaches.
I'm thinking about painting nails and
yeah, that's what we're doing,
mate. Peanut butter toast and that this morning. I honestly I do these. I love talking footy, but I do footy podcasts and people ask me questions. I honestly can't remember some of that. Some of the differences. So.
Yeah. Well, Origin, quickly, just to touch on that. How was it playing with the Blues in the Origin camp?
It's great. Yeah, felt like, probably I felt like I was a year too late. I felt 2010 was
your year, 100%.
Your year,
but yeah, you line up against that great Queensland side, Lockie's last game. To go to a decider in Queensland, I thought was really cool to say to be able to that I've done that.
You've done that, 100%.
To lose 34-24 wasn't great, but it was an amazing experience. Really lucky to be able to say that I've played for New South Wales.
Do you want to ever coach New South Wales, like whether it's men's or women's?
Yeah, I'd love to do the women's.
Yeah?
Yeah. If there's an opportunity that come up, I would love to interview for that job. My priority is re-signing with the Dragons and extending long-term to be able to build the rest of what I'm doing now in the pathways and bring the young players through because we've got a really young squad. And then, I've coached Samoa at the end of last year and had a really successful trip with that great bunch of females that are so passionate about their culture and looking at trying to do that. But if the women's New South Wales Origin job came up, I feel like I could offer something to that program to help. We've lost 3 in a row now.
Before I go, actually, I'll continue on that. So what's the process? So that coach has lost 3 series in a row.
I have no idea what the process is. I'm thinking about me individually getting ready for the Titans. So I have no idea what that looks like. I haven't even reached out. I don't have a manager. I manage myself.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, so for me, I don't... Yeah, my manager's my wife. I just ask whether she's going to be able to manage with the kids if I take on that more work.
Yeah. Mad. We spoke off camera about your visions for the NRLW and how important it is to actually invest into this competition to help it expand. Where do you see, now I know you've given me the answer, but I want the viewers to hear it from your mouth. Where should the NRLW really be in regards to the competition, the season?
Length.
Yeah,
so lengthwise, ideally it'd be home and away, which is 18 rounds. I think the females would handle that. Longer pre-season. But firstly, we've got to work out scheduling. Origin before this season starts would never happen with the men's, so I don't understand why the women's would do that. I'd love to see it at the end of NRLW. I think that's a fair representation, allows females to play, luckily or unluckily for us, depends which way you look at it. We didn't have any members in the Opens this year. We had 5 in the under-19s, but for us, I think firstly, every fan wants 3 games. You talk about bang for buck. I'd love to see the NRLW align themselves with the NRL and have them be the entree to the men's game every round. Like, especially if you got a team like Dragons for us this year. Hopefully it results in wins, but we've got 4 home games with boys games either before or after it, which is a huge advantage for us because the crowd, environment, energy, all that kind of stuff. Either that Or my idea was, I don't know why each team doesn't host a magic round.
Yeah.
That's a
fair point.
You want young females to come and enjoy it in a safe environment. When you come and watch NRLW, it's a really safe environment.
Yeah.
Okay, and the NRL's just as safe now. Okay, but you go to the fence and you see young girls and they got their hair pigtails and all that kind of stuff. That's what you want to see.
Yeah.
Okay, we want that times 10, but we're not there at the moment. So if you align it just for a little bit longer on some of the module of what the NRL have done and TV rights, it's easier for TV because they're in the one spot. You have to have separate setups, and the games you're going to have more free to air. So I think there's an alignment there that could happen. I think that some of the ideas that the coaches and administration could collaborate on would help the game. I'd love to see a CEO of NRLW, and have that go in alignment so that Andrew Abdo and Peter Valinis, who've done such an amazing job, can worry about that and have us over here running line in line. So there's so many ideas that you'd love to be able to share and talk about, but right now, the more exposure we get through attaching ourselves to the men's game, the 3 Origins were great, but at the end of the day, for the girls to make as much money as we want them to, we've got to have people come through the gates, and to do that, just while we're establishing, while we're starting to get it up to, eventually there'll be 20 teams, we know that, but right now, we want to see fans at the game, and to do that, you might have to attach it to the men's.
Well, look, before we wrap up the pod, one more question. I know a lot of Dragons fans would want to hear your thoughts on the Dragons this year. They're smashing it. Shane Flanagan has really changed his team and put him into top 8 contentions. Is there a chance we see Dragons in finals this year?
100%. I think you look at their best, they've been really, really good in terms of they're not compromised what their values are around what they've done in the preseason. I think the sort of stain on it that Flano, I talk to Flano a lot, he would say that we haven't been consistent in what our values were in those games, which have blown out, and that would disappoint him, knowing Flano. So I think that the next month is going to show whether we will make it or not, because we've got a really tough draw. We've got Panthers, I think we've got Melbourne, we've got Dolphins again. So, it's sorry, not Dolphins. We've got another team coming down as well. So, it's a tough draw, but I think...
even the Dogs actually too, you got...
Sorry, we've got the Dogs. That's the other team. But I say this to you asked about Dragons fans. I love Dragons fans. For good or for bad, I love them, right? Because if you had said at the start of the year that Shane Flanagan was going to come in and double your win total, what would you have said? Before a ball was kicked.
100%.
Yeah, right.
You take it.
Right? He's nearly done that. It's not enough.
Now it's not enough.
Now it's not
And
enough.
I've always said Dragons have a great squad, but it was all about getting that right coach, and Shane Flanagan's the perfect coach for Dragons.
Yeah, well, they're fit. They're fit, right? And some positional changes have really worked out for the team. And I don't know if they've had one game, they've had a stretch of like 2 or 3 games where everyone's played great.
Yeah.
Bit like the Dogs a little bit.
Yeah. Right.
Like that, it's so hard to get that. Melbourne haven't even had it, and they're still 4 points clear.
Well.
Penrith haven't had it, and they're second still. Like all these teams at grand final and bounce down, and then that's the consistency that you want. So it's a work in progress. But if you said year one that he was going to double your win total and be fighting for a chance in the 8, Dragons fans would say sign him up for another 5 years.
And I think because they see how good he's done, the expectation has gone higher now, so they're expecting more. But which they shouldn't, because they should know that where you were last year, like this is a very good progress for the Dragons.
But it takes time.
Yeah,
Look at
it
Ciro.
does.
It's just a work in progress.
You can't just rebuild a roster overnight and go, we're going to play finals footy.
Yeah.
You've got to install some values, and then it's like teaching your kids. They've got to learn to wipe their own ass, but they can't wipe it at the start. So you're doing that. You're doing that. You show them, then they're going to forget sometimes and probably piss themselves.
It's a process.
It's a process. Now the Dogs, they've been consistently in their approach to footy, and now it's like real, like looking up. Because you get told not to look at ladder. When you play great, you go, hold on a sec, and then you go, I can believe. Do you believe? Yeah, sweet. So we're all in. That's what the great teams do for longer periods than everyone else. They stick together. They play for each other. That's why I love watching the Dogs at the moment from an analyst point of view, like individual games. And the Dragons have done that in spurts this year, again on the weekend, and had to win that game. Doesn't matter what it looks like.
Mate, as long as you get it, 100%.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. Well, anyways, thanks, Jamie, for hopping on our podcast.
You.
Really appreciate you giving the time for us to have a chat with you. We really appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully guys, you enjoyed the video. Leave a like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.